Hi, and welcome to Cedar Weekly, home of innovation and creation, where you can tune in to read and listen to up and coming artists sharing about the future of art and business, while at the same time connect you with hundreds of individuals making a difference. Today I'm here with Tristin, and you are an artist and all around creative. Can you tell us a little more about yourself and maybe what you're working on right now?
Yeah. Well, as you said, my name is Tristin. I am 24. I currently live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as you said, I'm an all-around creative, but primarily I'm a painter. So I'm working on a couple of different paintings right now. I'm all over the place always.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask because money for most artists is usually not a motivating factor. So, what is it for you that inspires you to put your brush to canvas or your pencil to paper, however you want to put it?
I think it's just all around quality of life for me. um, Art for me is a way of communication. It's a huge therapeutic role in my life. And especially, I decided to launch myself into the artist world in the middle of the pandemic. So,
Hmm.
like August, I've only been officially 100% full time committed to this since August. And I think I just came face to face with one of those like now or never moments
Yeah.
where I was I graduated college, I didn't start using my degree. I worked in retail for about a year and I was just miserable. Like I was bringing in enough money to pay bills and I'm good at my jobs. But I just realized that like if I'm feeling burnt out and washed up at 24, why would I try to do this my whole life? So
Yeah.
my motivation is just overall quality of life because my head is all over the place constantly, and I wanted to find a job that would, instead of fight against that, work hand in hand with that. And using my degree is the only thing that I've ever found that does that.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's a brave step to take in this time and with the setting that we're in. So that's amazing. And I mean, it seems like you're achieving quite a bit of success as well with just having started up, I mean, a few months ago, right?
I absolutely could not be doing this right now. Even with all the stubbornness in the world, I wouldn't be able to feasibly do this if I didn't have the immense amount of support that I have between my fiance being 100% on board with this and supporting me during a time where I felt exceptionally guilty because like the whole world is crumbling. I should be doing my part to pull in as much money as I can. I wouldn't have made that decision had I not had his full support. And I wouldn't be so busy if I didn't have so many friends and adopted family members and real family members who were willing to not only support me on Patreon monthly, but also like find commissions and send them my way. So I understand that I've had a much bigger boom at the start of things than most people have. And I can't get over how grateful I am for that because I honestly, if no one wants my work, I can't work, you know? Like I can't do this without support and I've had a lot of it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've always been really impressed by your work. And I think a lot of people, I remember back, because I met you at Greenville University, and a lot of people were big fans of your artwork. And I know you've kind of taken a bit of a transition from more of doing just original work to doing a lot of, uh, what's the word?
commissions, like
Commissions. Thank you. Yeah, commissioned work. For you, how has that transition been for you? Do you miss having the creativity to just kind of go for it and make whatever you're feeling like, or do you enjoy having more strict guidelines?
I wouldn't I wouldn't say that I've even noticed the lack of my own work at this point just because like I said earlier my head is constantly in 1400 places at once And that's fine because I'm my own boss now, so I can work in 1,400 places at once. It's not always an effective way to work, but on days when I need to split off and do things like a random abstract that a random abstract that means nothing, I just needed to keep my hands moving.
Yeah.
I can afford to do that. I will say I wasn't expecting to get as many commission pieces as I got right off the bat. But because I'm so new at this, I feel like I'm still putting in my time down in the dirt. I don't
Hmm.
feel like I'm owed all the time in the world just to be like, yes, I want to make what I want to make. It's nice to have projects to work on. I have 3 active commissions right now. It's
Wow.
nice to have projects to be like, okay, I don't need therapy today, but I want to work towards making more money today. Like that's always the handoff for a lot of artists. I'm coming to believe is that we love commissions because commissions equal guaranteed paycheck, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's frustrating not to be able to put your efforts towards your own projects, which is why I just do both. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
haven't felt gypped. I love the commissions because the commissions are active support.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you bring up as well the fact that there's a lot of creations, a lot of creatives have this almost scatterbrained like mentality of not often being able to stick with a project for a long time. And for me, I know that's true with music, but it's cool that you've been able to find a way that that's turned into a productive way for you to make a business and still do what you love.
I I learned in college the hard way usually because I'm not an academic. I learned that I not only do I work really well under pressure sometimes, like I need that pressure sometimes. So to be in an environment where I can control that is really nice. I have like vague deadlines set for all of my commissions when I first get them, and it's nice knowing that they're waiting on it to be done by a certain date because that gives me the same push that I had for like my senior show. Because I am still learning how to stay motivated, how to work consistently. I am still, for as much as I want to be flaky and all over the place some days, I do have to have some kind of loose schedule set up for myself. Otherwise, I just don't. So, especially mid pandemic, as an empath
Yeah.
in, in a city I don't want to be in, like if I let myself just slip, I can go stagnant for like a full week. And my work deserves better than that. I deserve better than that. Dalton deserves better than that. So I put loose parameters on myself, but it's nice to be able to work at my own ebb and flow instead of like what's dictated by a company.
Yeah. Do you think there's a way as an audience or as a community supporting you that we could do a better job of that? Uh, and maybe speaking personally, but also in a broader sense, just creatively for artists.
This is one that I'm not really sure how to answer as much just because I'm still feeling that out for myself. Um, I think my biggest thing would be I feel like a lot of people have a misconception that art is only worth something to people who think it's pretty. Like, that's a weird way to put it. But I think a lot of people overlook the cultural importance and the
Mm,
global impact that art can have. So, not even like, oh, I just need more people to subscribe to my Patreon. Not even like that. Just in a general sense, I wish more people would stop and think about how powerful art really is and can be, just because it's one of the few things that is a universal language. It's one of the things that, because it's visual,
yeah.
it can touch anyone and it can mean a variety of different things to a variety of different people. And it always has a really good meaning or a really deep or important meaning to someone, even if it's not your thing. Like, I think what the whole world needs to work on just in general is acceptance on every
Yeah.
platform. But
Yeah.
specifically answering the question about art is, don't be so quick to blow it off sometimes, because even if it's like, I don't understand it, maybe they're challenging you to understand something you haven't considered before. Like,
Yeah. That's a really good point. And it's interesting you bring up art as a universal language as well, because that's something I wanted to touch on was the idea that as an artist, it's true that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but also sometimes meaning can be in the eye of the beholder when it comes to physical artwork. And do you find as an artist that that frustrates you sometimes that you lose control on the message you're portraying with your art? Or is that part of the beauty of the creative process is that each person takes your artwork and interprets it individually?
I definitely lean more towards the latter, especially like my senior show revolved around that very concept of I painted several big pieces. They were all really symbolic, but I tried to keep them as ambiguous as possible because to me they had a really specific meaning. Each piece I used, each color I used meant something, but it was crazy to see how many different interpretations of my work were out there
Mm.
because I went into it thinking, oh yeah, this clearly means blah, blah, blah. And someone else just pulled the rug out from under me and came in from a totally different viewpoint. And I was like, wow, I can absolutely see I created that. And I didn't even know that meaning was hidden in there. Like, that was really fun for me. Like, I kept the pieces ambiguous. I kept the names just like one word short, not giving away any information.
Yeah.
I do think there are more artists who feel like the frustration side of that, just because if you spend, each of these pieces, people don't really realize take hours and hours and days and months. Like the last
Hmm.
commission I did, I worked on for 8 months. Like, granted,
Wow.
had I been a little more consistent with it, I probably could have gotten it out in less time. But that was 8 months of my life that went into a piece. And people can be really quick to just like walk by it and not try to connect or not. I don't know. Um, I think I can see how it would be easy for people to get frustrated when it's like I made this piece about A and
Yeah.
you think it's about Z. But for me, that's always been more fun than anything because I am an extrovert and anything that promotes conversation, I'm down for.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because do you think you also maybe put more depth and honesty into your pieces to encourage that sort of response from your viewers? Because I know, I mean, with commissions, it's a bit different because you have to play the ball game of whoever you're dealing with. But with your own personal work, I know it was always very, like you're saying, diving into deep personal issues that had deep meaning for yourself, but then other people would come and interpret it differently. Do you think that's maybe why you put so much depth into your pieces is so that you will start those conversations?
I do always hope to start those conversations, yes, but I also think part of it is like it makes the piece private for me in some ways, even though it's something that will be public. Like, it's cool to me to know that like that's my child out there with my own private meaning, and it's cool because I got to go through the act of therapy and like work through something heavy with this piece, but I don't have to air my dirty laundry for the whole world if I don't want to. So yes, I like promoting conversation, but there's also like that hidden vein of like, haha, I'm working out demons and you don't even know it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you brought up art as a form of therapy a couple times. And do you feel like you've developed as a person and enhanced maybe your own self-awareness through being an artist?
absolutely. um, the biggest, like, I was not a patient person before I started in the art program. And I think that patience that I learned through the art program messed me up for the best in the best way
Hmm.
because I was deconstructed as a person in a lot of ways. Like I was very impatient. I was egotistical, feels like a harsh word, but like I had my way of doing things, and if it didn't work that way, whatever, I'm just not going to do it. Like I was more immature in my ways of thinking. But being put in an art program, and especially the process of critiquing, where
Mm.
you spend like 15 hours working on a project one week, and then you get together one night and all of your art peers are like, I hate it, try again. Like to learn how to take that kind of hit gracefully and
Mm.
learn how to view it as constructive criticism instead of just, oh, they didn't like what I did, wah. Like more self-aware of how I handled myself in unpleasant situations. It taught me a lot of patience because I've always been a creative, but I wouldn't say I was always like good at art. Like I could sketch, but sitting in a figure drawing class for 2 hours, staring at the same person, working on one little bit of a thigh, trying to make it look like a thigh, like that takes patience that I didn't have.
Mm.
So just through finding a skill set that I was willing to learn and put time into, finding that avenue to become more introspective and more patient. And it's definitely changed me.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a lesson you can take into just about any area of your life. I definitely struggle with that, the ability to let criticism seep in just enough so that you value it, but not enough that it like makes you just destroy yourself on the inside.
Yeah, that's another thing is like learning that balance where you don't lose touch with the quirky bits that make it your piece, but
Hmm.
also finding a way to make it appeal to more. Um,
Yeah.
my senior show specifically taught me that because my professors pointed to a couple of pieces that they're like, maybe don't put those in your show. They don't fit thematically. And I was like, I'm putting them in my show. Thanks for your advice. Like finding those moments where I was like, I hear you. And normally it is my knee jerk reaction to listen to you because you're my professor. But I am the artist and I do have a reason to include these. So forgive me. So
Excuse
I'm
me.
going to do that anyway. Don't laugh at me. Anyways, yeah.
When do you think you first really saw yourself as an artist? You were talking just a second ago about starting out not really seeing yourself as maybe a qualified artist compared to other artists. When do you think that started to change for you?
Honestly, it probably wasn't until I'm going to keep referencing my senior show just because that show did, it was like a big turning point for me where I had so much work to do and I had procrastinated and put off so much, but I pulled it all together at the last second. I think the moments leading up to the show, not even the show itself, the show was beautiful. I got to fill a gallery. All of my friends were there. Um, he's leaving for work.
Bye.
Was the behind the scenes moments of preparation where I like proved to myself that I had what it took. So why wasn't I giving myself the credit of that title? Like I've always been a self-proclaimed creative, but it wasn't until I was put in situations where I didn't think I could do it and then I did it that I was kind of like, wow. So I would say less than 2 years ago would
Yeah.
be, I had been making art for years at that point, but I didn't feel that I had that mysterious piece, like that missing element that all of us in our own creative fields search for in some way, where it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm doing it, but am I doing it? Like, there, I can't explain it more than just like a moment of peace where I was like standing in a gallery that I had filled, looking around like the night before my senior art show. And I was like, how could I not be an artist? Like,
Mm.
why am I depriving myself of that title? Like, look at what I've accomplished. And it was just kind of like a cold turkey moment where I was like, that's it, I'm an artist now. Done. That's my new title.
Yeah. So what does being an artist for you mean? Is it something that you think you're still growing into, or do you think it's more just an embodiment? I don't know. What does that mean for you?
I think that it has to be something I'm always growing in. And I don't think I could give a blanket answer for everyone just because art as an industry is one where you just blaze your own path. Like, that's the only way to do it. Like,
Mm,
I tried emulating a lot of people, I tried copying a lot of other techniques, and it never really clicked because I wasn't in control. I don't really know how to explain it other than just there was like a newfound confidence that suddenly was bestowed upon me. I don't know if it was through my own thinking. I don't know if it was just the world like, all right, here, fine, you can have this. Like, um, I think to me, the most important, as I'm saying, to me, the most important of aspect of being an artist is that kind of stick to itiveness.
mm,
I don't think I could do this if it weren't for my stubbornness
mm.
because like you said earlier, if I'm just going in this for the money, no, this is not the career for me. Because, like, I'm pulling in more money than I ever expected to right at the beginning, but that doesn't mean I'm paying my bills with this job yet,
Yeah.
because I'm not even a little. But the fact that I get to stay in my home in the middle of a pandemic, I get to tend to my 8,000 plants, I get to spend time with my geriatric cat, I get to drink coffee until 7 p.m. and be as irresponsible with my sleep schedule as I want. And as long as I keep working, that what the world would call irresponsible behavior is actually helping me in my artistic process because
Mm,
like I'm still getting to live the life I had in college where it was like I do what I want for the most part, but if I'm not stubborn, if I don't stick to it, if I don't remind myself of my long-term goals, I'm not going to make it. So I think to me, just realizing how to use things that I used to see as faults in my character as a way to motivate me.
mm.
When I learned how to start doing that is when I felt like I was starting to get that extra little piece of it, whatever it is, to define myself as an artist. Like,
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic answer. And do you think then that where you're at now, do you have sort of a common goal in everything you're creating then as an artist, regardless of whether it's your personal work or it's a commission? Do you feel like there's some sort of blend there?
I would say I have like a common goal with my work ethic, but not necessarily my pieces at this point, just because I have been doing so many commissions. Like, I have some little things that I've done just for me that I'll put up for sale, but I don't feel like I've gotten into that groove that most like professional artists are in, where they have like a very clear theme of what their work looks like. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even picked a painting style yet. Like, the commission piece I started and worked on for 8 months was a big, like, colorful music piece.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
really cool.
painter I was at the beginning of that piece was nothing like the painter I was 8 months from there. Like, my painting style shifted. It depends on my mood. Like, I have, I would, part of me wants to like settle down and like pick a theme and a medium. But then the rest of me is still that young 20-year-old that's like, what if I just did whatever I wanted? So I'm still fighting the, I don't know if I want to say immature, because it's like what makes my job fun some days where I'm like, I should be painting here. Or I could go out and explore my city and take pictures of ivy on the sides of buildings, and I'm still doing my job. Like, I set my Patreon up to be really diverse, to welcome photography, writing, I would love to get into music more, but like I'm just I'm just not in a space to do that right now.
Hmm.
But I love so many forms of creativity that I don't know that I want to stabilize and like, oh, I paint flowers and that's it. Like I
Yeah.
realize I probably have more luck making money if I did that, but I made this decision to improve my quality of life. So I don't want to start treating this job like I treated my other jobs, where it's like I come here, I do this one job, and then I go home. Like I wanted to leave the doors a little more open to be
Yeah.
all of
Well,
them.
it makes it makes me feel a lot better about myself hearing you say that because I feel like that's kind of an unspoken sect of artists that often get a lot of flack creatively because we don't want to stick in our lane. We don't want to stick in a specific avenue, which both the artistic industry and the music industry, I think, are kind of streamlined for those type of people that are like, I'm just gonna be a folk musician or I'm just going to do portrait sketches or whatever. And I find for me at least, and it sounds like you as well, that part of the process of being an artist and a creative person is this not only this rebellion to the system of like I want to do my own thing and not listen to what other people want, but also we don't want to put limits on creativity. Creativity is such an ambiguous and beautiful thing. It's like I don't know, trying to, grow a tree, but putting it in a tiny box, it's like, it's not, it feels like it's against the nature of what we're trying to accomplish.
It feels like, yeah, yes, it feels like it's against the nature because that's being stagnant. And I feel like creativity isn't stagnant. Like it can't be,
Hmm.
otherwise it's not creativity. Like that. I had another thought too. Hold
Take a sec.
on. Move along. I'll think of it.
Oh man. Well, I did actually, this is switching gears just a little bit, but I wanted to touch on, because you did a commission piece for a musician uh, this past month. I don't know how long you were working on it for, but I know my last interview was with Montany, and I was wondering how did you find that process of working specifically for a musician, or I could put as another artist working for a different artist. How does that process work for you?
I had a, this was my first toe dip into the world of album art
Mm.
when he approached me with that idea. I was like, album art, you say? Okay. Like, I'm not in a position in my career where I can afford to be like, no. I'm like, yes, give me the project. My experience was so good, though, because he was also very easy to work with. He came to me and he gave me like the parameters of what the album was about. And then he gave me one element. That's it. He's like, the album name is Ow. And that's all that needs to be in there. You just run free. And I want this to be as much your art as it is mine. So it was a good experience, but there was also like a lot of trust between the two of us
Mm.
because I I had to just get past a lot of my insecurities. That's like, he's paying me for this service. So if I mess up, oh no. um, I think the fact that he was laid back about it and he had already seen my work and he was just kind of confident in the direction that I would take it, that helped. And it was also kind of fun to like do my research because like he and I went to college together, but I wouldn't say we like knew each other. So I got to like play stalker and like go on all of his socials and like try to figure out like who he is as a person, what his vibe is. He sent me the like a rough cut of the album, so I've gotten to listen to the album already. So like listening to his songs while looking at his photos just kind of helped me piece together what
Mm.
kind of elements to have in there. I sent him some sketches of two different ideas. And I had one that was more like a 80s retro look because he has that vibe in a lot of his stuff with like
Yeah.
G effects. And
Yeah.
then the other one I felt fit with the album more. It was a little more like haunting and like ethereal. I had like two sketches of hands like pulling away from each other. And I told him that I was leaning more towards the hand sketch. And in his response, I could tell that he seemed almost a little disappointed, but he trusted me to like take it down that avenue.
Mm.
So just off of reading him, I kept the hand sketches, but then I brought in more of the 80s elements and like combined my two thoughts essentially.
Yeah.
And I put off sending him a photo of the painting for a very long time because I was like, if he reacts negatively, I'm gonna have a meltdown. And I sent it and he loved it. So I think it was a really positive experience, but I also think I was lucky that it was a really positive experience because he was just easy to work with. He articulated what he wanted well enough. We stayed in contact enough that I felt confident with where to take it. And he turned out to be really happy with the piece. So I was really happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's such a cool experience that there's that process of collaboration and trust and honesty with each other that leads to a beautiful product. And I love the artwork, and I've also, the album's out and it's amazing. So yeah, it's really fantastic. I wanted to transition to another segment here, which is something I do, and there was no preparation for this, so buckle your seatbelts. But I like to do a rapid fire question round. So this is just
Ah,
fast paced, top of the head, top of the mind, not top of the head, and
have more coffee.
and more coffee. I should have had more coffee this morning.
I
All
feel
right.
bad. I put this in like a cute mug. I have a lot of cute artist mugs, and I'm using like an old smokehouse glass. Ew.
All personality just adds to the personality. All right, you ready?
Nope. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, what is your spirit animal and why?
A falcon. Because I'm like a tall and intimidating person, so like a lot of people are scared of me, but if you get to know them, they're actually like fluffy, cute little creatures.
That's amazing. What television show have you binged recently?
Bones.
Oh, good one. If you were a caffeinated beverage, which would you be?
Janky, brewed at home coffee pot coffee.
Which animal adds more joy to the world, a squirrel or a llama?
Oh, knowing your feelings for this, I feel bad, but I'm gonna say squirrel.
Ah, how could you? Okay. That's a good answer, though. They're nuts. What's your worst physical injury, and what's a lie about how you got it?
My worst physical injury was 3 cracked ribs.
Ooh,
And a lie about how I got it would be I was kung fu fighting a man in a giant seal costume.
well, that's what leads to 3 broken ribs, apparently. If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name it?
Buckle up.
Hey, short and to the point.
Yep.
What holiday should be outlawed?
Should be outlawed. Valentine's Day.
Oh, good answer. I agree. If your life were a painting, what would be the dominant color?
Green.
If you could only be remembered for one thing in life, what would it be?
Kindness.
Wow, good answer. And lastly, what advice would you give to someone who looks up to you?
Just do it. Like it's old, it's outdated, everyone says it, but that was part of what launched me into doing what I'm doing, and I'm only 2 months in and I've already achieved more success than I thought I was capable of. My biggest fear has always been not that I will never be a good artist, but that I'll doubt myself and shoot myself in the foot and never do anything with it.
Mm,
Um, so if you ever have a moment where you're like, this would improve my life, do it. Like, as long as you're not hurting other people, do as you will, like that kind of thing. Just believe in yourself because that belief will carry you further than anyone else's opinion of you.
wow, good answer. Well, lastly, I'd like to ask a few questions about this year, which I like to do. And the first one is, how do you, as an artist, how have you personally stayed afloat during these challenging times with COVID and all that's going on?
Well, I feel like I have to have a two-part answer because at first I was an essential worker for the first several months of the outbreak. And for as much as I want to say that didn't play into my artistic career, it absolutely did, because that final push was kind of what I needed. Because I was about to get fired because my mental health was in the trash, and I was a part-time worker and I could barely work 3 days a week because my head was not there. I was devastated by the state of humanity. Every time I left my house, I was being put face to face with like horrible, ugly people, not physically, but like in the way they treated others. And like, it feels like a lot of the badness and the sediment bubbled up right there at the beginning of lockdown.
Yeah.
And I saw a side of humanity that I could usually ignore, but being an essential worker at a liquor store at the beginning of a pandemic. So I was secure there because I had a job, I had a guaranteed paycheck. But I also wouldn't have been pushed to that place of do or die feeling had I not experienced the burnout of working as an essential worker. Because, like I said earlier, I'm 24. Like, I came home to a beautiful house. Like, I got, not this one, I got really lucky in that my first home ever outside of college was like beautiful. 3 stories, natural light, amazing. So I
Mm.
got to come home to a beautiful house. I had plenty of food in my fridge. I had an amazing fiance who loved me, and pets and security, and I was freaking miserable. Like, I
Mm.
was tired, my body hurt, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I didn't feel like I was helping people. I felt useless. And I was like, wow, I'm 24 and I'm already feeling this. Ooh, we were about to move. I was about to be fired, and I was having an identity crisis, hence the birth of an artist,
Mm.
because I went downstairs into our janky little basement to film a welcome video to a Patreon account that I never thought I was going to launch,
Mm.
because I was like, I can't do it. I'm never going to commit time to it if I'm working my job where like I work one day and then it takes me 2 days to recover from that one day worked. So I was like, why am I working the one day that's exhausting me? Why wouldn't I just work every day doing what I want to do? So because of the pandemic, I was put into a corner and I had to make a decision. I was like, we're about to move. When I get to Milwaukee, I can either struggle to find a job in a pandemic world that's going to make me miserable and maybe pay me minimum wage, even though I'm a college graduate, or I could work really hard doing something that could work out in the long run, doing something that could make me happy, doing something that will benefit my health. So if I have to work hard no matter what, why wouldn't I choose myself?
Mm.
So
Wow.
the pandemic, I don't ever want to say was essential because like so much hurt and so much terrible news and death and sadness has come from this time. But I also recognize how it benefited me by putting me in a corner that I wasn't ready to be in, but it didn't matter because I was there and I just had to choose. So mostly positives. Um, but as far as you need to use the litter box right now.
So inconvenient.
We live in
Uh,
a very tiny apartment. Nothing can happen here without us knowing about it.
that's definitely getting cut. Um, no, um, no, that's really good. And I mean, that was going to be my last question was what are 3 things you're thankful for regarding the year 2020? And do you think
I,
you'd, yeah, big or small?
for me personally, I have to be thankful for the corner I was backed into. Like, it was an uncomfortable place. I didn't want to be there, but it led to a decision that I'm really hopeful about. Um, the second thing has to be friends, family, and chosen family,
Mm.
because again, I wouldn't be here without all of the support that I have. I wouldn't have had the strength to believe in myself hard enough to just go for it if I didn't have so many people telling me, I would buy your work. I have bought your work. I want to buy more of your work. Like
Yeah.
the connectedness, the relationships that are starting to be reformed, the all of that is something I've got to be thankful for. Are you going to the litter box a second time? Scooter. Sorry. And the third thing would have to be grateful for the, like, this is very off topic, but grateful for all of the positive change that is coming to our world right now, and for all of the good fights that are being fought, for all of the hurts that are being brought into much needed light. Grateful for the platform that we could spring off of to create some really good changes for the world and the people who live in it, and some much needed changes.
Wow.
I'll leave it at that. I don't know how specific we should get here, so I'll leave it at that.
No, that's fantastic. I think it touches right on the point of, yeah, it's not an easy world we live in, but thankfully there has been a lot of good changes, and I think artists are part of that as well. So, yeah,
Universal
thank you.
language.
Yeah, thank you for your art, and thank you for joining me today. Lastly, do you have any contact information? I wanted to talk a little bit, just really fast. You've touched a number of times on your Patreon account, and I just wanted to make sure the audience was aware of that. Do you want to give just a little summary of what exactly you do on that?
Yeah, it is. For those of you who don't know, Patreon is just a subscription based website that allows me to, I do updates a minimum of twice a week where I show you what projects I've been working on, photography, meals I've been cooking, whatever. Um, and in order to see that content, you pay a monthly fee anywhere from $1 a month up to, I think, $50 a month. And each tier has different benefits that come with it. I have a couple of VIP people who get monthly free gifts from me. So I'll like hand paint a little original and send it to them once a month just as a thank you for their level of support. That really is the biggest way to support me right now, because I do have enough commissions, at least for the time being. That being said, give me your commissions. I'll take those too.
Yeah.
But going on Patreon allows me to have a consistent monthly income where I get paid once a month thanks to your support. And it's a way to kind of flatten the curve, to use the popular term, as far as how my income comes in. And you can find me, my art tag or art handle, I don't know the cool hip lingo for this. My artist name is unapologeticartistry. So you can find me and support my work at www.patreon.com/unapologetic_artistry.
Perfect. Well, I'll also, just because I know I'm lazy and everyone's lazy, I'll put links as well, so makes it real simple. But thank you so much, Tristin. I love talking with you, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on week 3 of Cedar Weekly.
Thank you
And
for choosing me to be on week 3 of Cedar Weekly.
you're welcome. We'll have to have you back sometime. But yeah, next week is an exclusive interview with Alexander David. And thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.